They're entrusted with safeguarding our nation's retirement savings, including yours. But as a controversy engulfing one fund sweeps to others, is it time the $3.9 trillion super sector is pulled into line? The scandal gripping supergiant Cbus is spreading.
We have seen widowers with 2 children waiting 18 months for a decision on a death insurance claim.
After financial watchdog AFCA revealed complaints about delays in releasing super to a loved one jumped 7-fold between 2021 and 23.
They're a source of emergency income to widows, widowers who lose a loved one and quickly have to readjust their life financially whilst grieving that person and holding a family together.
The most complained about fund, Australian Super.
Australian Super is committed to giving you the best super experience.
The $340 billion mega fund copping 1,400 complaints, more than double the second worst performer, Australian Retirement Trust.
Awaken your super with Australian Retirement Trust.
The revelations come in the wake of Australia's corporate watchdog ASIC launching legal action against Cbus over the alleged mishandling of $20 million in cash owed to grieving families and people with disabilities.
It's probably beyond anyone's imagination. Just losing your partner is the hardest thing you could ever imagine. I felt like this should be an easy thing, but it wasn't at all.
I do want to again say sorry for the impact that the delays in processing of insurance claims have had on our members and their families.
Cbus has pointed the finger at its third-party administrator, tasked with processing the claims.
There is a lack of transparency when it comes to the administration of super fund death claims.
Unlike other financial institutions, super funds aren't bound by a rule book.
The superannuation industry is the only financial services industry in Australia that doesn't have a mandatory code with minimum standards. External oversight is required, along with a code.
We are live from the lands of the Kulin Nation, and Mary Delahunty is the CEO of the super industry's peak body, ASFA. Mary, what do you think is a reasonable amount of time for someone to have to wait for a deceased person's super?
Yeah, this is a genuine question that everyone's asking and grappling with at the moment, because there is no simple answer. No death benefit payment is straightforward, unfortunately. And that's why we can see payments take a little longer than what the community would expect them to do. You see, trustees, the people who run the funds, they've got 2 decisions to make in these payment processes. There's a super component, like the bit in the fund, and then there's the insurance as well. And we need to make sure that we're paying the right amount of money to the right people. So as you can imagine, if there's been an untimely death of a loved one, which is horrible to think about, but that's when you get these complex family situations, some contest about where that money should go, and it's not like a will or an estate. The people running the fund actually have to make the decisions.
Mary, doesn't it say something, though, that you, as the CEO of the industry's peak body, can't say to us now what a reasonable amount of time is for that process that you're describing to take place?
I'm sure you can appreciate that in these situations where someone has died without expecting to, so they're still in their working life, situations can get pretty complex, and the death benefit payment is not like a will or an estate. Because funds are run by trustees, we have to make sure that the money goes to the beneficiary.
Respectfully, Mary, 6,000 Cbus members were forced to wait more than 12 months. 10,000 Cbus members were forced to wait more than 3 months. I mean, this doesn't look like occasional mistakes. This looks like the business model.
I think there's a couple of things going on here, and I do hear the frustration of Australians. I guess what I'm trying to explain is that people have had some poor customer service outcomes. That's not good enough, and we understand that.
But
I really
my
think
question
that we can change that.
Is your sector using this as... Well, I'm trying to get at whether your industry is using these deaths and sitting on the money as part of its business model.
Well, that's probably a good myth to dispel, because there is literally no upside for a superannuation fund to keep the money in there when they're acting as trustees for the beneficiary. So what you can think about when you think about this process is that someone who's holding the money at the moment, either the insurance company, because remember there's 2 parts, they need to find the right people that it goes to. Sometimes that can be pretty simple, as in it's obvious. And in those cases where it's obvious and we still haven't done it quick enough, we need to get better at those. Absolutely understood. It's not always going to be straightforward though, because death benefit payments are a little less easy than a will and an estate. It's a different process.
Mary, you say there's no upside for the industry in these kind of delays, but of course for families who've lost someone, it's heartbreaking. We spoke to a widow with 3 small children who waited 10 months and said that that only added to the mental toll of her grief. What do you say to her and people like her?
Oh, I think it's entirely appropriate that she is disappointed and angry, and that we've compounded that grief, and we've looked at those cases and really tried to make sure that we've set these standards high enough that that doesn't happen anymore. Where there is a payment to be made and it is relatively not complex, as in the beneficiaries are obvious, we need to be faster, and importantly, we need to communicate the process better, and we are going to do better over time.
We hope so. Mary, thanks so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me.
And statements from Australian Retirement Trust, AMP, Host Plus and Australian Super are on our website.